During the late 13th century, a series of small principalities emerged in Anatolia, situated between the Byzantine and Mongol empires. These areas were under the influence of Ghazis, devoted Islamic warriors, and were governed by princes known as Beys. Among these Beys was Osman the First, the leader of Turkmen nomads, whose name became associated with the Ottoman Principality. Over the course of its initial centuries, this region expanded significantly, ultimately evolving into a formidable global power known as the Ottoman Empire. This empire, which held sway over extensive territories in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean, endured until 1924, when the remaining regions transformed into the modern nation of Turkey. Osman the First ruled from 1300 until 1326, and was the first sultan who gave the Ottoman Empire its name. But the originator of the first principality around Sogut was none other than his own father Ertugrul. After this event, Osman started fighting against the Byzantines, taking important defenses, conquering Bursa, and becoming regarded as the founder of the Ottoman Empire. Orchan was the son of Osman the First, and carried on the expansion of his familial domains by capturing Nicaea, Nicomedia, and Karasi. Instead of solely engaging in conflict with the Byzantines, Orchan formed an alliance with John Cantacuzene. This collaboration extended the Ottoman influence into the Balkans through their joint efforts against John's adversary Palaeologus. This strategic move led to the acquisition of rights, information, and control over Gallipoli. Following his father and grandfather, Murad oversaw a massive expansion of the Ottoman territories, taking Adrianople, subduing the Byzantines, and winning victories in Serbia and Bulgaria, which forced submission. However, despite winning the Battle of Kosovo with his son, Murad was killed by an assassin's trick. Bayezid managed to conquer extensive regions within the Balkans, engage in conflicts with Venice, enforce a prolonged blockade of Constantinople, and successfully destroyed a crusade launched against him following his invasion of Hungary. However, his efforts to expand his authority in Anatolia led to a confrontation with Tamerlane, resulting in Bayezid's defeat, capture, and subsequent imprisonment by Tamerlane. From 1403 to 1413, Bayezid's defeat turned out to be a turning point, as the Ottoman Empire was spared from complete collapse due to Europe's vulnerabilities and Tamerlane's departure to the east. Bayezid's sons not only managed to seize power, but also engaged in a civil war for control, with Musa Bey, Isa Bey, and Süleyman eventually being defeated by Mehmed the First. Mehmed the First succeeded in consolidating authority over the Ottoman territories, though this achievement came at the cost of his brothers. He received support from the Byzantine Emperor Manuel II in this endeavor. Wallachia was brought under Ottoman suzerainty, and a competitor who posed as one of his brothers was effectively dealt with. While Emperor Manuel II may have lent support to Mehmed I, a new challenge emerged for Murad II, as he had to fight with contenders backed by the Byzantines. This ultimately led to the Byzantines feeling threatened and being compelled to withdraw their support. Murad II's initial territorial expansions in the Balkans sparked a conflict against a formidable European coalition, resulting in losses. Nevertheless, in 1444, following these setbacks and a negotiated peace agreement, Murad chose to step down in favor of his son. Mehmed was just 12 when his father abdicated, and ruled in this first phase for just 2 years, until the situation in the Ottoman war zones demanded his father resume control. When the European alliance broke their agreements, Murad led the army which defeated them, and bowed to demands. He resumed power, winning the Second Battle of Kosovo, but was careful not to upset the balance in Anatolia. Even though his first rule with 12 had been brief, Mehmed's second rule changed history. He conquered Constantinople and many other territories which shaped the form of the Ottoman Empire and led to its dominance over Anatolia and the Balkans. The son of Mehmed the Conqueror, Bayezid II, had to fight his brother to secure the throne. He did not wholeheartedly engage in a war against the Mamluks, achieving limited success. Despite his victory over one rebellious son, Bayezid was unable to stop Selim's advance. Fearing that he had lost support and unable to continue, he chose to step back in favor of Selim, and shortly after, he passed away. After taking the throne against his father, Selim made sure that he doesn't end up the same way and removed all similar threads, leaving him with only one son. He expanded the empire into Syria, Hejaz, Palestine, Egypt, and Cairo. In 1517, he became the symbolic leader of the Islamic states. Arguably the greatest of all the Ottoman leaders, Süleyman not only extended his empire greatly, but also encouraged an era of great cultural wonder. He conquered Belgrade, shattered Hungary at the Battle of Mohacs, but could not win his siege of Vienna. He also fought in Persia, but died during another siege in Hungary. Inheriting the throne from his father, Selim the Second was happy to entrust increasing amounts of power, and the elite Janissaries began to encroach on the Sultan. While his rule witnessed the European alliance dealing a blow to the Ottoman navy in the Battle of Lepanto, a fresh fleet was swiftly prepared and operational the following year. Venice was compelled to make concessions to the Ottomans. Selim's reign is often regarded as the beginning of the Sultanate's decline. The Ottoman presence in the Balkans started to weaken as vassal states joined forces with Austria against Murad. Although he achieved territorial advancements in a conflict with Iran, the state's financial stability was deteriorating. Murad has faced criticism for being overly influenced by internal politics and for permitting the Janissaries to evolve into a formidable internal force that posed a threat to the Ottomans rather than their external adversaries. The war against Austria that started under Murad the Third continued, and Mehmed did have some success with victories, sieges, and conquests, but faced rebellions at home due to the declining Ottoman state and a new war with Iran. Under his reign, the war with Austria slowly resulted in a peace agreement in 1606, but it was a damaging result for the Ottoman pride, as European traders sneaked deeper into the regime. During Mustafa's first reign, he was regarded as a weak ruler, and therefore he left the throne shortly after taking power. The 14-year-old Osman came to the throne and was determined to stop the interference of Poland in the Balkan states. However, a defeat in this campaign made Osman believe the Janissary troops were now a hindrance, so he reduced their funding and began to plan to recruit a new, non-Janissary army. After they realized, Osman was murdered by them. This led to Mustafa's second rule, which did not last long either, due to the domination of his rule by his own mother. Murad came to the throne with just 11 years of age, and he saw his early rule in the hands of his mother, the Janissaries, and Grand Viziers. As soon as he could, Murad smashed these rivals, took over the throne again, and recaptured Baghdad from Iran. A few years later, during Ibrahim's leadership, he made peace with Iran and Austria, but also got into another war with Venice. After exhibiting eccentricities and raising taxes, he was exposed and murdered by the Janissaries in 1648. Taking over the throne at the age of 6, the young Sultan Mehmed rather preferred hunting and leaving the rule to his maternal elders, Janissaries, Grand Viziers. In 1687, Süleyman took over the throne after being locked away for 46 years after the army expelled his brother's reign. Süleyman gave much of his control to the Grand Vizier Fazil Pasha, who turned around the Ottoman situation at that time. Following his destiny, Ahmed lost the Grand Vizier Fazil Pasha soon after taking over the throne in a battle, and the Ottomans lost a great deal of land. Venice attacked the empire, and Syria and Iraq grew back to power. Mustafa the Second was able to win the war against the Europeans, but had to concede after Russia took Azov. This focus caused rebellion elsewhere in the empire, and when Mustafa turned away from world affairs to focus on hunting, he was deposed. As Swedish King Charles XII had his troubles with Russia too, Ahmed the Third provided him shelter and focused on fighting the Russians in order to throw them out of the Ottoman sphere of influence. Having secured his throne in the face of rebels, which included a Janissary rebellion, Mahmud managed to turn the tide in the war with Austria and Russia, signing the Treaty of Belgrade in 1739, but could not do the same with Iran. Following Mahmud the First, Osman never really managed to establish his rule as he wanted to, and left after a short time of just 3 years. Mustafa the Third was aware of the Ottoman Empire's decline, but his efforts to institute reforms encountered challenges. He did succeed in revamping the military, and at first, maintained the Treaty of Belgrade while avoiding European conflicts. Nevertheless, the Russo-Ottoman rivalry proved uncontainable, leading to a war that unfolded unfavorably. Inheriting the throne and war from his brother Mustafa, Abdulhamid had to sign an embarrassing peace contract with Russia, which simply was not enough, and he had to go to war again in the later years of his reign. He was still determined to reform and aggregate power back to the empire, though. Inspired by his father Mustafa and the rapid changes of the French Revolution, Selim began a wide-ranging reform program. After taking over the throne, he started to westernize the Ottomans, but had to give up early after facing reactionary revolts, which also led to his death. After ordering the murder of his cousin Selim, Mustafa took over the throne for a short period of 1 year and was also murdered on the orders of his own brother. Following his brother, Mahmud was not able to keep the Ottomans' power in the Balkans. He then started reforming the empire by obliterating the Janissaries, bringing in German experts to rebuild the military and installing new government officials. His son Abdulmecit then kept his ideas and expanded the reforms to transform the nature of the Ottoman state. He worked to keep the great powers of Europe mostly on his side to better hold the empire together. Taking over the throne from his brother, Abdulaziz continued the reforms and initially admired the Western European nations. After Germany defeated France, though, he pushed a more Islamic ideal forward and was deposed in 1876. This led to the rule of Murad the Fifth, who had to retire after not even 1 year after several mental breakdowns. After attempting to resist foreign interference through the initial Ottoman constitution in 1876, Abdulhamid concluded that the Western powers were primarily interested in acquiring his territory. Consequently, he abandoned the parliament and the constitution, assuming a firm autocratic rule for 4 decades. However, despite his efforts, European nations, including Germany, were still able to exert influence. In 1908, the Young Turk was deposed from power. Mehmed the Fifth took over and was brought out of a quiet, literary life to act as sultan. He was a constitutional monarch where practical power rested and ruled through the Balkan Wars, where the Ottomans lost most of their remaining holdings in Europe. Mehmed died before Constantinople was occupied. Mehmed the Sixth took power at a critical time, as the victorious allies of World War I were dealing with a defeated Ottoman Empire and their nationalist movement. Mehmed first negotiated a deal with the Allies to stave off nationalism and keep his dynasty, then negotiated with the nationalists to hold elections, which they won. The struggle continued, with Mehmed dissolving parliament, the nationalists sitting their government in Ankara, Mehmed signing the WWI Peace Treaty of Versailles, which basically left the Ottomans as Turkey. Soon the nationalists abolished the Sultanate, and Mehmed was forced to flee. The Sultanate had been eradicated, and the former Sultan, Abdulmecit's cousin, fled. Nonetheless, Abdulmecit was chosen as the Caliph by the newly established government. Despite his title, he held no political authority, and when the opposition to the new regime intensified, Caliph Mustafa Kemal resolved to proclaim the Turkish Republic and subsequently abolish the caliphate. As a result, Abdulmecit went into exile, marking the conclusion of the Ottoman ruler's lineage.